Cease labeling King Charles with derogatory terms like a prat, an idiot, or a twit, for his existence has been marred by endless tragedies. Despite media portrayals of opulence within the royal family, Charles has borne the heavy burden of heirship for 76 years with little recognition for his efforts. His life has been overshadowed by the imposing figure of Queen Elizabeth II and the towering expectations of Prince Philip, depriving him of any semblance of normalcy. The relentless scrutiny and criticism from the public have only served to compound Charles's anguish, perpetuating a cycle of unrelenting stress and despair. Let's seriously look back at the sad life of King Charles to have a more accurate view of him. Let's start with Charles's greatest tragedy. Many people believe that he was an unhappy child who had a very distant relationship with his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Grew up in a world where his very existence was overshadowed by the mantle of kingship, Charles's early encounters with his mother were marked not by tender embraces, but by the solemnity of royal protocol. Swiftly separated from Queen Elizabeth's maternal embrace, he was presented not as a cherished infant, but as a future sovereign, heir to an ancient throne. This initial separation, as recounted by historians, foreshadowed a relationship characterized by a subtle detachment, a consequence of the weighty responsibilities that accompanied Charles's princely status. Jonathan Dimbleby's seminal work, The Prince of Wales, a biography, offers poignant insights into the nuances of this mother-son dynamic. Dimbleby paints a portrait of Queen Elizabeth as a figure governed by duty, her interactions with Charles guided more by the imperatives of statecraft than by maternal instinct. In his infancy, Charles found himself navigating the corridors of palace life under the shadow of his mother's regal obligations, his presence measured not in cuddles and lullabies, but in the solemn recognition of his future role. Reports suggest that Queen Elizabeth's approach to motherhood was shaped by the weight of tradition and the exigencies of monarchy. Viewing Charles not merely as a beloved child but as a princely incumbent, she bestowed upon him the mantle of duty from his earliest days. For Elizabeth, the tender bonds of motherhood were tempered by the solemn awareness of her son's destiny, a destiny irrevocably intertwined with the fate of the British monarchy. One effort that Charles was never recognized for was his dedication to the royal family. Indeed, many people believe that Charles spent his whole life hiding in his mother's shadow and waiting to ascend the throne, which was one of the most unfortunate things he had to go through. As the direct heir to the throne, Charles endeavored to carve out a meaningful role for himself within the royal family, seeking to uphold the traditions of the monarchy while also embracing the challenges of a rapidly changing world. Yet, as noted by The New Yorker, Charles's efforts to establish his own identity and purpose as heir apparent were met with mixed reviews, with his actions often stirring controversy and dissent within the public sphere. While Queen Elizabeth II navigated the complexities of the monarchy with grace and diplomacy, maintaining a carefully cultivated image of neutrality and benevolence, Charles found himself grappling with accusations of meddling and overstepping his bounds. One of the chief criticisms leveled against Charles was his perceived penchant for expressing his opinions on matters both public and private, a trait that clashed with the traditional role of the monarchy as a symbol of unity and impartiality. Even prominent figures in British politics, such as former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, reportedly admonished Charles for his outspokenness, reminding him of the limits of his authority in a constitutional monarchy. The contrast between Charles and his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, was stark, a testament to the unique challenges faced by successive generations of royals in navigating the demands of tradition and modernity. While the Queen had earned widespread admiration for her steadfast commitment to duty and decorum, Charles found himself ensnared in the complexities of public opinion, his actions scrutinized and criticized at every turn. As Charles assumed the mantle of kingship, the question lingered as to whether he would be able to transcend the shadow of his mother's influence and emerge as a popular and respected monarch in his own right. Only time would tell whether Charles's vision for the monarchy would resonate with the people of Britain and the Commonwealth, or whether he would continue to grapple with the legacy of his mother's reign, a legacy defined by grace, dignity, and unwavering devotion to duty. Not only was he under pressure from his mother in his royal role, but Charles was also strongly opposed by her in his love life, causing his life to become more and more stifling. From the outset, Camilla's relationship with King Charles III was shrouded in controversy, her status as his romantic interest casting a long shadow over her public image. As the consort of a future king, Camilla found herself thrust into the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny, her every action dissected and scrutinized by a relentless press and an often unforgiving public. Despite her efforts to rehabilitate her reputation over time, the road to redemption proved fraught with obstacles, both within and beyond the confines of the royal household. Indeed, Camilla's quest for acceptance extended far beyond the realm of public opinion, encompassing the delicate intricacies of royal familial dynamics. Queen Elizabeth II, a figure renowned for her stoic resolve and unwavering dedication to duty, harbored her own reservations about Camilla's suitability as a consort. Allegations abound regarding the Queen's candid assessments of Camilla, purportedly uttered in moments of unguarded candor and fueled by the intoxicating effects of martini-laden revelry. One such anecdote, immortalized in the annals of royal gossip, recounts a fateful evening when Queen Elizabeth, under the influence of spirits, reportedly expressed her disdain for Camilla in no uncertain terms. The Queen's impassioned declaration of wicked woman reverberated through the hallowed halls of Buckingham Palace, casting a pall over Charles's romantic aspirations and underscoring the deep-seated tensions that lingered within the royal family. For Charles, caught in the crossfire of familial discord and public disapproval, the Queen's words cut deep, their impact reverberating through the corridors of power. Reports suggest that he was moved to tears by his mother's blunt assessment, a poignant testament to the profound rift that existed between familial duty and personal desire. Yet the Queen's reservations about Camilla were not confined to whispered asides and fleeting moments of indiscretion. In the wake of Charles's ill-fated marriage to Princess Diana, the Queen reportedly grappled with the burgeoning romance between her son and Camilla, lamenting the tumultuous turn of events that threatened to destabilize the very fabric of the monarchy. Even as Charles and Camilla sought to formalize their union in the eyes of the world, the Queen's steadfast adherence to tradition and protocol posed a formidable obstacle. Her reluctance to attend their wedding, rooted in her role as the head of the Church of England, underscored the profound complexities that surrounded their relationship, casting a shadow over what should have been a joyous occasion. However, despite the seemingly impossible distance between him and his mother, Charles still paid tribute to the Queen, especially after her sudden death. With the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Charles ascended to the throne, assuming the mantle of kingship as King Charles III. Yet, amidst the solemnity of his professional elevation, Charles grappled with a profound sense of loss and sorrow, mourning the passing of his beloved mother even as he stepped into the role of monarch. As news of the Queen's death reverberated across the country, Charles's emotions were laid bare for all to see, his grief etched upon his features as he embarked on a solemn tour of Great Britain, paying homage to his mother alongside her mourning subjects. The weight of his sorrow was palpable as he greeted fellow mourners, his eyes betraying the depth of his anguish even as he sought to fulfill his duties as sovereign. In a poignant tribute to his mother's memory, Charles wasted no time in publicly acknowledging her passing, making an announcement just a half hour after her death was announced. As reported by The Guardian, His words were imbued with a profound sense of loss and reverence, reflecting the deep bond that had united mother and son throughout the years. "We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother," Charles remarked, his voice tinged with sorrow. "I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world." Yet, even as he grieved his mother's passing in the public eye, Charles also found solace in the private sanctuary of his family and loved ones. Behind closed doors, he grappled with the enormity of his loss, drawing strength from the knowledge that he was not alone in his sorrow. "During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held," Charles remarked, his words a testament to the enduring legacy of love and devotion that had defined their relationship. Although Charles has learned to accept the distance from his mother, he still finds himself an unhappy child as his relationship with his father is no better. From the outset, the relationship between Charles and Philip was marked by a palpable tension, a reflection perhaps of the stark differences in temperament and outlook that defined their respective personas. According to accounts from The New Yorker, Philip harbored a candid assessment of his son, viewing Charles through a lens colored by disappointment and disillusionment. To Philip, Charles embodied a stark departure from the traditional mold of royal masculinity, his perceived shortcomings, lack of athleticism, aversion to equestrian pursuits, and sensitivity, standing in stark contrast to the rugged stoicism championed by his father. This disconnect between father and son found expression in the form of Charles's education, a domain fraught with its own set of challenges and tribulations. Sent off to Gordonstown School, Philip's alma mater, Charles found himself thrust into an environment rife with the rigors of academic rigor and the unforgiving crucible of peer scrutiny. Yet, even within the hallowed halls of privilege, Charles was not immune to the scourge of bullying, his royal status serving as both a shield and a source of resentment among his peers. Despite his efforts to navigate the fraught terrain of paternal expectations, Charles found himself perennially falling short of his father's exacting standards. Even as he acquiesced to Philip's demands and embarked on a career in the Royal Navy, Charles remained ensnared in a web of paternal disapproval, his achievements overshadowed by the specter of unmet expectations. However, Charles admitted that he never blamed his father's expectations. He always loved and respected his great father. Charles's feelings were most clearly shown when he was the only one who visited his father at the hospital. As noted by People, Prince Philip's admission to King Edward VII Hospital sent shockwaves through the royal family, triggering an outpouring of concern and speculation about his condition. At 99 years old, the Queen's husband was no stranger to the ravages of time, yet his sudden illness served as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the inexorable march of age. For Charles, the sight of his father's ailing form stirred a tumult of emotions, anguish, apprehension, and a profound sense of duty. Donning a mask to adhere to strict COVID-19 protocols, Charles made his way to the hospital, his mind awash with memories of shared moments and the enduring bond that had united them through the years. Yet amidst the turmoil of uncertainty, Charles remained a steadfast beacon of support and solace for his father, offering comfort and reassurance in the face of adversity. As Philip's doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize his condition, Charles stood vigil by his bedside, his presence a testament to the depth of his love and devotion. The days turned into weeks as Philip's hospital stay stretched on, each passing moment fraught with the uncertainty of what the future might hold. Despite the best efforts of medical professionals, Philip's condition remained precarious, his frailty a stark reminder of the relentless march of time. Finally, after nearly a month of hospitalization, Philip was deemed stable enough to return to Windsor Castle, where he could recuperate in the familiar surroundings of home. Yet, tragically, his reprieve was short-lived, as news soon broke of his passing, plunging the royal family into mourning and leaving Charles to grapple with the profound loss of a beloved father and patriarch. As Charles, flanked by his siblings and two sons, led the solemn procession behind Philip's casket during the official funeral proceedings, the weight of grief hung heavy in the air, casting a pall of sadness over the assembled mourners. The sight of Charles, his stoic facade betraying the depths of his sorrow, served as a poignant testament to the enduring bond between father and son, a bond forged in the crucible of duty and devotion. In the aftermath of Philip's passing, Charles and his wife, Camilla Parker Bowles, sought solace amidst the outpouring of public mourning, visiting the pop-up memorials erected in honor of the late prince. Moved to tears by the overwhelming display of affection and reverence, Charles and Camilla found comfort in the collective embrace of a nation united in grief. In an official statement issued on behalf of the royal family, Charles offered heartfelt gratitude for the outpouring of support and sympathy that had poured forth in the wake of Philip's death. "My dear Papa was a very special person who I think above all else would have been amazed by the reaction and the touching things that have been said about him," Charles remarked, his voice tinged with emotion. "From that point of view, we are my family. Deeply grateful for all that. It will sustain us in this particular loss and at this particularly sad time." In addition to Charles's poor relationship with both parents, he also had to face a harsher truth. He was not allowed to marry the woman he loved because he was the heir to the throne. At the heart of this saga lies the enduring bond between Charles and Camilla, a love that blossomed long before the arrival of Diana Spencer onto the royal stage. Yet, despite the depth of their affection, Charles and Camilla found their path to matrimony blocked by the formidable barriers of tradition and public perception. As recounted by Reader's Digest, the royal family viewed Camilla with a skeptical eye, deeming her an unsuitable match for Charles due to her perceived lack of noble lineage and her prior romantic entanglements. In the eyes of the establishment, Camilla's status as an experienced woman rendered her unfit to ascend to the lofty heights of royal consort, her past indiscretions casting a shadow over her suitability for the role. In contrast, Diana Spencer emerged as a beacon of innocence and purity, her youth and naivete captivating the hearts of both the royal family and the public at large. Fresh-faced and impressionable, Diana embodied the quintessential image of a fairy tale princess, her wide-eyed enthusiasm for royal life serving as a stark contrast to Camilla's worldly sophistication. Thus, when Charles turned his affection towards Diana, he was met with widespread approval and encouragement from both his family and the British public. Diana's ascent to the role of Princess of Wales symbolized a triumph of tradition and expectation, and her union with Charles heralded a union of youthful idealism and royal duty. Yet behind the facade of marital bliss lurked the specter of unrequited love and unfulfilled longing. Despite his outward commitment to Diana, Charles's heart remained tethered to Camilla, his forbidden passion simmering beneath the surface of royal propriety. As recounted by The New Yorker, the unraveling of Charles and Diana's marriage was marked by a mutual anguish that transcended the bounds of public perception. Behind the veneer of royal privilege lay a relationship fraught with discord and disillusionment, with both parties grappling with the weight of unmet expectations and unfulfilled promises. Claims of infidelity and betrayal cast a shadow over the once gilded romance, tarnishing the image of marital bliss with the bitter taste of betrayal and mistrust. Yet beneath the sensational headlines and salacious gossip lay a deeper truth, a truth that spoke to the profound loneliness and despair that haunted both Charles and Diana in the twilight of their union. According to reports, Diana's behavior towards Charles during their tumultuous marriage was characterized by a mixture of defiance and despair. Allegations of taunting and belittlement underscored the simmering tensions that pervaded their relationship, with Diana purportedly deriding Charles's ambitions and mocking his military accolades. For Charles, the dissolution of his marriage to Diana represented a profound personal and public reckoning. Stripped of the veneer of marital respectability, he found himself thrust into the harsh glare of public scrutiny, his private indiscretions laid bare for the world to see. Yet amidst the clamor of scandal and sensationalism, Charles grappled with a deeper anguish. The loss of love once cherished, now irrevocably tainted by the scars of betrayal and resentment. Then, the tragic death of Princess Diana in 1997 cast a pall of sorrow and despair over the royal family, plunging King Charles III into a maelstrom of grief and guilt from which he would struggle to emerge. As recounted by E., the devastating news of Diana's untimely demise shattered the fragile semblance of normalcy that had come to define Charles's world, leaving in its wake a profound sense of loss and bewilderment. Upon learning of Diana's tragic passing, Charles was consumed by a maelstrom of emotions, anguish, regret, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. As Tina Brown, author of The Diana Chronicles, poignantly observed, Charles knew at that moment that the world would hold him accountable for Diana's death, that his actions and his choices would forever be scrutinized through the lens of tragedy. In the quiet confines of the Balmoral estate, Charles and Queen Elizabeth grappled with the harrowing task of breaking the news to Diana's young sons, Princes William and Harry. Confronted with the heart-wrenching reality of their loss, Charles and his mother made the agonizing decision to allow the boys to sleep, shielding them temporarily from the cruel sting of grief. Yet even amidst their own sorrow, Charles and Queen Elizabeth bore the weight of a heavier burden, the knowledge that they must confront the grim task of retrieving Diana's body from Paris, the site of the tragic accident. In a gesture of heartbreaking resolve, Charles insisted on undertaking this solemn duty himself, determined to honor Diana's memory with the dignity and respect she deserved. Amidst the chaos and confusion that ensued, a poignant moment of familial solidarity unfolded as Prince Harry, then just 12 years old, expressed a desire to accompany his father on this somber journey. Yet, in an act of paternal protection, Charles gently declined Harry's request, recognizing the unbearable weight of grief that awaited them in Paris. Reportedly, the dissolution of King Charles III's marriage to Diana Spencer was a seismic event that reverberated throughout the corridors of power and the hearts of the British public. In the aftermath of their highly publicized split, the fallout was nothing short of disastrous, as Charles's years of infidelity came under intense scrutiny, laying bare the fractures within their once gilded union. For Charles, the revelation of his extramarital affairs marked a nadir in his public standing, with much of the British press and public rallying behind Diana, the aggrieved princess whose plight captured the collective sympathy of a nation. Yet, as time wore on, Charles sought to rebuild his tarnished reputation, finding solace and companionship in the arms of Camilla Parker Bowles, whom he would later marry in 2005. Camilla's ascension to the role of Duchess of Cornwall was met with a mixture of skepticism and acceptance from the British public as she endeavored to carve out her own niche within the royal family. Over the years, however, Camilla proved herself to be a reliable and steadfast presence on the royal scene, winning over hearts and minds with her grace and dignity. Yet, just as Charles and Camilla seemed to have overcome the shadow of public scrutiny, the release of Netflix's The Crown threatened to reignite old animosities and reopen wounds that had long since healed. The fourth season of the hit series, which focused prominently on Charles and Diana's tumultuous relationship, sparked outrage and controversy, with the royal couple forced to endure a barrage of negative commentary on social media. As noted by the New York Daily News, the portrayal of Charles and Camilla in The Crown was deemed by many to be cruel and unfair, dredging up painful memories of a past best left forgotten. For Charles, who had hoped to leave the scandals of his youth behind him as he assumed the throne, the resurgence of public animosity was a bitter pill to swallow, casting a pall of uncertainty over his fledgling reign. The fifth season of The Crown only served to compound Charles's woes, delving deeper into the acrimonious fallout of his marriage to Diana and the relentless media attacks that characterized their bitter divorce. Dubbed the War of the Windsors, the portrayal of their tumultuous relationship served as a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead for Charles as he sought to navigate the treacherous waters of kingship. It has not stopped here. The burden of public opinion weighs heavily on the shoulders of King Charles III, who has long grappled with the sting of rejection and disapproval from both the political establishment and the general populace. As noted by The New Yorker, Charles has been the target of scathing criticism and derision, with detractors from all corners of the political spectrum labeling him as a prat, an idiot, and a twit on various occasions. Such disparaging remarks serve as a stark reminder of the uphill battle Charles faces in winning over the hearts and minds of his subjects. The extent of Charles's unpopularity was laid bare in a 2016 poll, which revealed that a mere 25% of respondents expressed a desire to see him ascend to the throne. In a startling rebuke to the heir apparent, more than half of those polled indicated a preference for his son, Prince William, to assume the mantle of kingship, a damning indictment of Charles's perceived suitability for the role. In the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, little has changed in the public's perception of Charles, as evidenced by a recent YouGov poll conducted in the third quarter of 2022. With a meager 44% popularity rating, Charles finds himself languishing in the number 5 spot, a position shared by his wife Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall. In stark contrast, Prince William enjoys a considerably higher approval rating, securing the number 3 spot with an impressive 65% acceptance rate, while Catherine, Princess of Wales, trails closely behind in the number 2 spot with a commendable 66% approval rating. In addition, according to insights from The New Yorker, Charles's ruling abilities have been a subject of scrutiny and doubt from a remarkably early age, with even his own parents expressing reservations about his suitability for the throne. From his formative years, Charles faced numerous challenges that cast doubt on his ability to fulfill his future role as monarch. Described as a sickly child prone to sinus infections, Charles's health struggles were a cause for concern for his parents, who viewed him with a mixture of puzzlement and disappointment. This early adversity not only shaped Charles's character, but also instilled in him a sense of determination to overcome obstacles and prove his worthiness as a future king. Yet despite his best efforts, Charles often found himself the target of familial criticism and scrutiny, with his own siblings contributing to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. The dynamics within the royal household were fraught with tension, leaving Charles feeling squashed and guilty and perpetuating a sense of inferiority that would linger into adulthood. Nevertheless, Charles remained steadfast in his commitment to serving others and fulfilling his duty to the crown. Despite the persistent doubts and criticisms leveled against him, Charles sought to rise above the negativity and focus on his vision for a compassionate and inclusive monarchy. Over the years, Charles has learned to navigate the choppy waters of public opinion with grace and resilience, developing a thick skin in the face of constant scrutiny and criticism. Despite his ascension to the throne, doubts still linger among his detractors, who question the longevity and impact of his reign. Royal expert Robert Jobson's assessment of Charles's time on the throne reflects the lingering skepticism surrounding his reign, suggesting that it may be short-lived and devoid of remarkable achievements. Yet, for Charles, the measure of his success as monarch lies not in the length of his reign, but in the legacy he leaves behind, a legacy defined by his unwavering commitment to duty, service, and the well-being of his people. What do you think about the tragedies that Charles had to go through? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.